It is an atomic bomb. It is the harnessing of the basic power of the universe, the same force that fuels the sun, now turned into a weapon. Tonight, that force will ride on wings toward a city that has no idea what is coming. When we talk about war, it's easy to fall into numbers and strategy. But every choice begins with people. The faces in briefing rooms, the technicians tightening bolts, the young men who learned to sleep with engines in their bones. This is the story of one mission and the weight of everything that pushed it into the sky. August 6, 1945, Tinian Island sits quiet under a washed-out pre-dawn sky. On a runway, the Enola Gay, a B-29 superfortress named for a mother, waits with 11 crew members aboard. They carry a cargo unlike anything the world has ever seen. Little boy, a uranium bomb, 10 feet long and nearly 5 tons of careful, terrible engineering. 4 hours and 30 minutes separate them from their target. 4 hours and 30 minutes of ordinary human moments. A last cigarette stubbed out, a prayer whispered, a letter fingered in a pocket and tucked back away. Pilots trace routes on maps. The bombardier checks the Norden site and thinks about precision, about doing his job and coming home. Somewhere below, men at Oak Ridge and Los Alamos, and faces many viewers will never see, had labored in secrecy for years, building a machine that could end a war or begin an age of fear. The story of this flight stretches back to a single morning in 1941, a surprise attack that forever changed how America saw the Pacific. It pushed the nation toward the vast, costly struggles on islands whose names, Iwo Jima, Peleliu, would come to mean so much suffering and courage. It pushed leaders to ask brutal questions about how to end the fighting with the fewest lives lost. And it pushed scientists and soldiers into a race to harness an atom before enemies did. In the desert of New Mexico, a test called Trinity would later show the world a new scale of fire. Watching that first mushroom cloud, J. Robert Oppenheimer, a man who loved poetry and physics, would later quote a line from the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." Those words stuck because the sight stuck. Brilliant light, a calmed hush, then a power that both awed and horrified every observer. Back on Tinian, the ordnance men secure Little Boy in the bomb bay. Every bolt and wire is checked twice. Captain William Deke Parsons and his team arm the device in cramped darkness. There is no turning back once the safety plugs are replaced. The crew receives cyanide tablets, a grim backup the men never speak of aloud, a sign that even the airmen sense how grave their task is. As the Enola Gay climbs to 31,000 feet, silence fills the cockpit in a way that feels almost sacred. The Pacific below is a vast, indifferent blue. The city they fly toward, Hiroshima, is a place of homes, factories, children, and ordinary days. It has some military presence, yes, but it is, above all, a human place. The choice to drop this weapon isn't made in the clouds. It was built on months of debates, reports, and the simple, terrifying calculus of lives. President Truman and his advisors faced that calculus. The projected casualties of a land invasion of Japan were staggering. Yet the human cost of using the bomb would be immediate and vast. In the end, the decision lands where decisions often do, at the difficult intersection between strategy and conscience. At 8:15 a.m., over Hiroshima, Little Boy releases in a flash brighter than the sun sears the sky. The blast, the heat, and the shock rip through the city. Buildings collapse, streets are shredded, and an awful silence follows a roar. Lives, whole neighborhoods, families, small businesses, school children, are changed in a single moment. Survival becomes a different kind of struggle, for shelter, for medical care, for meaning itself in the wake of such sudden ruin. Listen to the small details. A father searching for his daughter in a field of rubble. A nurse improvising triage with half a dozen hands and no supplies. A neighbor pulling survivors from the wreckage. These are the human threads that carry the weight of history. The weapon may be a technological marvel. The aftermath is heartbreak, and the faces of those who lived it are the ones history must remember. The Enola Gay and her crew fly on, having done what they were ordered to do. Back home, newsrooms and leaders will wrestle with the moral vocabulary of what happened. Around the world, the trinity that tested in the desert and the destruction over Hiroshima marked the start of a new era, one defined equally by scientific achievement and by an urgent need to ask how humankind keeps power from destroying itself. This story is not meant to judge every decision in a single breath. It's a reminder. When humans unleash forces they barely understand, the consequences reach far beyond battlefields and strategy maps. They reach into neighborhoods, into kitchens and classrooms, into the small, stubborn places where people love each other and try to rebuild.